Hey, everybody. Welcome. Today I brought up a poem, Easter Wings, to talk about what a really cool poem is because it's a little bit difficult to really analyze and understand the meaning, but it has some cool like hints and aspects to it that make me excited to talk about it. So let's look at Easter Wings. And first things first, let's look at the shape. It's two stanzas. And hmm, titles are always important, so Easter wings. But also, whenever you're reading a poem, anytime that the shape differs, that's a really important, big key aspect to the structure and also the overall meaning of the poem that you're reading. So this one's definitely a little bit different in shape. What do you think of the two stanzas? Do they look like wings? Yeah, one of my students said to me the last time I taught this, oh, like angel wings. Yeah, but we're going to focus on Easter wings because this is going to be about Easter. So we have wings, which could connect to an angel, but birds also have wings. So you'd have to kind of think of things that have wings and then read the poem to see what the author is referring to. Now, when we read poetry, there's many different ways of doing it. It's suggested that you read from grammatical point to grammatical point, so comma to comma, period to period, or just read it in a whole and go back and look at it. But I always find things to say, and sometimes they start before the grammar points of the poem. So deal with me as I read this to you and stop to point out things that I think either need further explanation or that are important or interesting to the overall poem. And we can read this together. I I have my textbook in front of me, so I have it up on the screen for you to follow along, but it's easier for me to read from my print. Easter wings. Lord who createth man in wealth and store. Okay, so right there, I already want to stop and point out some things that are important and essential to understand the rest of the poem. Lord. Well, by Easter, we should have realized, yeah, this is going to be a religious type connection. Who created man in wealth and store? Who did God create? First man, Adam. So, Lord who created man in wealth and store. Well, if we think of Adam, is wealth necessarily meaning financial like money? No, probably not. Adam had everything he needed in the Garden of Eden. So more like you have what you need, not like you're saturated with dollar bills or $100 bills. Okay, so we're referring to him. Lord who created the man in wealth and store. Though foolishly he lost the same, decaying more and more, till he became most poor. What did Adam do? If you know the Bible story of Adam and Eve, what happens? Adam and Eve, they eat from this tree that God said, do not eat from this tree. And there was certain fruit they weren't supposed to eat from. But the devil appeared and tempted them and said, oh, eat it. It's wonderful. Eve does it. She convinces Adam to. He does it. He sins. So he foolishly lost all that wealth he had. He lost the good stuff. And that is where sin originated from Adam and what he did. Okay, so now he's left most poor. So it's kind of, if you look at the poem, the longest line is when he had the most, and then it's bringing it down smaller and smaller until we see him where he loses it and has the least. I think that's a cool aspect just of that part of it. Okay. Oh, let me rise as larks harmoniously. A lark's a bird, if you didn't know that. So let me rise up as larks harmoniously. Rise. How does rise connect to this poem? What happened on Easter? It's biblically believed that Easter is the day that Jesus rose from the dead, or he was crucified on the cross on Good Friday, put into this cave. The rock's gone. He's no longer there. He rose up. His body's gone. So that's important when you see a word like rise. If your title is has to do with Easter, but this rise is connecting to a bird. So let's read it and see what we can make. Oh, let me rise as larks harmlessly and sing this day my victories. Then shall the fall further the flight in me. Okay, so all of a sudden, this poem took a turn in tone. The first part was bleak, negative, worst, worst, worst. Ugh. And then all of a sudden, harmoniously, and sing this day in thy victories. Then shall the fall further the flight in me. All of a sudden, we're seeing hope for the future. Like, that's good and positive. So that's one wing. Let's see what happens with the next and why it might be in the shape it's in. My tender age in sorrow did begin. That's pretty powerful. So tender age is youth. How does a person's youth start with sorrow? That might connect to the rest of this poem. My students, the last time I taught it, said, "Oh, when you're born, they hit you to make sure you cry." And I guess that's definitely sorrowful, but we're all born with sin. Because of Adam and because of what he did, we now, every child that's born is born with this sin. That was the original sin. So we are not perfect. So this tender age and sorrow did begin. So in this tender age, you have the sorrow already. And with sickness and shame, thou didst so punish sin that I became most thin. Okay. So that would be the narrator, the person writing the poem. So it turned from kind of talking about Adam to Adam's effect on this person. So this person, thou didst so punish sin that I became most thin. So this person has sinned. And then it says, with thee let me combine and feel thy victory. For if I imp my wing on thine, affliction shall advance the flight in me. Okay. Well, again, if I imp my wing on thine, so now it's a bird reference again. And it's going to advance the flight in me. So kind of again, the first stanza is negative, dealing with the sin, the sickness, becomes thin because of it. But let me feel thy victory, for if I imp my wing on thine, affliction shall advance the flight in me. So the affliction of Christ is going to advance my flight in my life. So the poem is really connecting to Christ's resurrection, on going on that cross to forgive us humans of our sins, to be able to forgive Adam for his sin. And because Christ died on died on the cross, every single person's sins can be forgiven. Christ said, I would do that just for any one of you. So he would have done it just for George Herbert, this author, and nobody else if he was the only person alive. He would do it just for me, just for you. So any individual person can have that forgiveness and can shine and fly on and have a great life because of the sacrifices of Christ, which seems to be the importance of Easter to this author. So looking at, like, when you see this, it's kind of a poem that reflects on the sin and the sickness and the pain. However, it ends with the hope for the future and the happiness we all can have because of what Christ did. So it's a remembrance of that on Easter. And on my side notes, just to point this out, through the fall in the Garden of Eden, early editions include the words this day in line 18. They do not, they are not required for the meter of the poem. Just figured I'd add that in because my book said it. And sometimes it's important to look at that stuff. So if we looked at the poem, that's the meaning, that's the coolness of the structure and the shape. However, we also have really cool literary terms in it. If you see the OR in Lord, the OR in store, we see multiple examples of what's called a sonnet. So the middle of the words have that same exact repetition of like different vowels and sounds. There was also, you could see like alliteration, fall, further, flight. So the consonants repetitive in the line of the F sound, fall, further, flight. So those are some of the cool literary elements in there. Um, but overall, just a really cool poem that's reminding us of the resurrection of Christ and the importance of it, and how all this bleak, horrible sin can be washed away, and there's hope and promise for futures for humans. So hopefully that helped you out if you had to read it, and best of luck. If you have other questions, feel free to comment.